Well, you know what to expect at this time of morning right after sports. It's been quite an interaction with Joshua Clottey. But time now, as we welcome you back on the AM show, for me to serve you my blunt thoughts for this Friday morning. I've titled it, Ghana in the Intensive Care Unit, the farce of our leadership, and why we must do something radical about it now. Permit me to emphasize Ghana for, as my initial comment, that leadership in Ghana is a big farce. We pretend to have leaders, political leaders, and they likewise pretend to lead. We all know most of them are square pegs and round holes, yet we sit and watch them with arms akimbo, almost in some state of shock when they fail to deliver the boons our hearts desire. We have far too many crooks in high places, far too many predators clothed in political, religious garb in this country who prey on the gullible, the weak, the innocent, and the one merely seeking a scintilla of hope. In biblical analogy, Jesus the Good Shepherd offers up his life freely for his sheep, mankind, all of us. The shepherds, or the ones supposed to be that here in our country, are anything but sacrificial. They rather devour the sheep and do so mercilessly without a thought about tomorrow. We also have the problem of our 1992 Constitution, which, while having served us pretty well over time, sorely needs some tweaking. Why? Well, why not? Why did we have the 2010 Constitutional Review Commission do its work to the cost of the Ghanaian taxpayer, only for the resulting work to be made to collect dust? This same partial mass of our laws has been used variously to enrich the already rich and further impoverish the already poor. The law has been twisted, and so the powerful have their way, and the masses do not even have a say. We have successfully and dangerously created a society where some are primus inter pares, first among equals, though our Constitution guarantees the rule of law and our common equality before it. We have created presidents with monstrous powers, and we all see what monsters do in the movies we watch, don't we? Like the famed writer and orator Robert Ingersoll said about Abraham Lincoln on January the 16th, 1883, during a speech in Washington, D.C. If you want to find out what a man is to the bottom, give him power. Any man can stand adversity. Only a great man can stand prosperity. Our leaders with this constitution have prospered. The rest of us, not so much. In fact, many have been impoverished and pushed into an early grave, while many of our misleaders and their backers have moved from zero to hero, shame to fame, nothing to everything in just a short space of time. It is high time we as a people reflected on our laws, the kind of leadership we have been served in this Fourth Republic, and where we mean to go and what we desire to achieve as a people. If not, like blind leaders of the blind, as Jesus reveals in Matthew 15:14, we shall all fall into a national ditch that will be very difficult to emerge from. All of this got me thinking about why our leaders are this abysmal in leadership and only good at misleadership. According to Wikipedia, the Pygmalion effect, or Rosenthal effect, is a psychological phenomenon in which high expectations lead to improved performance in a given area. The effect is named for the Greek myth of Pygmalion, the sculptor who fell so much in love with the perfectly beautiful statue he created that the statue came to life. The psychologists Robert Rosenthal and Lenore Jacobson, in their book Pygmalion in the Classroom, borrowed some of the myth by advancing the idea that teachers' expectations of their students affect the students' performance. Rosenthal and Jacobson held that high expectations led to better performance and low expectations led to worse, both effects leading to self-fulfilling prophecy. According to the Pygmalion effect, the targets of the expectations internalize their positive labels, and those with positive labels succeed accordingly. A similar process works in the opposite direction in the case of low expectations. This again got me thinking even further. With all the praise we heap on our misleaders, especially when they are in opposition, and the slack we cut them for quite a while into their tenure, why do they still perform so woefully? Could it be that the Pygmalion effect has no impact at all on them? A few days ago, the Ghana Federation of Labour recently suggested that If most Ghanaians were getting the raw deal of economic haircuts, then Article 71 office holders, the Chief Justice, the President, the Vice President, we know them, ought to do same by taking a 50% haircut on their salaries and emoluments as part of the debt restructuring program and to reduce the pressure on the public purse. I ask, and why not? Look at the unabashed and maybe even reckless spending by the executive arm of government when some ordinary folk cannot even get what they will eat, one square meal in a day. I see it when I go round. Our city is getting beaten black and blue by the hard currencies once more. We brought in oil from Russia, claiming it was from Dubai, and even that had not been purchased with gold as we deceitfully told Ghanaians it would. Now at the pumps, fuel prices are beginning to soar again. How, I ask, can we live like this? How can we survive, much less thrive in this flip-flop, this bubble of economic madness? In Ghana, the true sense of wanamoni, or gade chopam nyafu nyafu, and monkey they work, baboon they chop, are so real, it is not even funny. If I may put it bluntly, the people who elect these misleaders, the very people who ought to be served by them, have now become their footstools, their least servants. But contemplate where we find ourselves as a country. How do we emerge from this bog of an economy? Come with me and let's look at where we find ourselves as a country before I deliver my final thoughts. So as I talk about our sustainability of debt and where we find ourselves, look at our debt stock. This was our debt in January 2022. 371.7 billion Ghana cedis. By November, it had ballooned by about 200 million to 575.7 billion Ghana cedis. Take stock of that. Now, if you look at the breakdown of our external debt versus the domestic debt, and this is pretty problematic when it comes to the domestic debt exchange program, 382.1 billion external, 139.1 billion domestic. It means that would also impact the local banks in terms of this domestic debt exchange program, and with a trickle-down effect to each and every one of us who patronize these institutions. But when you look at the status of selected economic indicators, inflation in 2021 was at 12.6%, which was high in the first place. It's now at 54.1%. We've not got the latest one. Gross internal or international reserves, 9.7 billion in 2021, and that is in dollars. Now, where do we find ourselves? $6.2 billion. That's about 3.5 billion shaved off. Months of import cover, 4.4 months. Now it is what? 2.7 months. Precarious situation. We don't even have up to 3 months of import cover. Our balance of payments stands at $510.1 million with a surplus. This was in 2021. In 2022, we had a deficit of $3.6 billion. A surplus of 510 million, a deficit now of 3.6 billion. And you look at the import bill, what we had in 2021, 13 plus billion. And in 2022, it's gone up even further, even as we talk about import substitution, 14.56 billion. But let's look at the DDEP and get some updates. We know there's a new deadline of February the 7th, which is a few days away. Individuals are free not to participate with consequences. However, old bonds may have limited tradability, and those are some of the consequences. Final discussions are ongoing with organized labor and the pension fund trustees. Then you look at it in respect of deadlines. The first deadline, December 19th, second, December 30th. It's been moving on and on. January the 16th, January the 31st. Now we are looking at February the 7th. And looking at the new terms for individual bondholders, you would see that now it's been propagated that those below 59 years would get a coupon of 10% with a maximum maturity of 5 years, which is somewhat better than the initial deal. And for retirees, they would up the ante by another 5%, pushing it to 15% for the same period of 5 years. Now, when you look at that for the same period of 5 years, and then you look at agreements and exemptions, looking at the parties, the status, and the dates, you would see that for pension funds, they've been exempted. That's why we have the red code there. as of December 22, 2022. And then the Ghana Association of Banks, an agreement has been reached January 23rd, the Ghana Insurers Association January 26th, the Ghana Security Industry January the 27th. But for individual bondholders, there has been some promise of exemption, a la what we heard from Martin Kpebu and others, though there has been some backlash as far as that is concerned. Then with the next slide, we look at our public debt in terms of itemization. Our total debt as at the budget presentation was 467.4 billion. And the total debt as of November 2022 stood at 575.7 billion, 93.5% of GDP, with an addition of 108 billion in 2 months. Now, this is data from the Bank of Ghana, but our data is slightly different per our Joy News computation. And here's why. I'll tell you. But when you look at the total debt as at budget presentation, 467.4 billion. Again, it remains the same in terms of the November 2022 value, 575.7 billion. But we peg it at not 93.5%, 123.6% of GDP, with the addition of 108 billion in 2 months. Why? Because we are pegging our debt portfolio, our debt stock, to the previous year's GDP. And so if you look at it realistically, which is actually what ought to be done, you would see that you would actually be looking at 123.6% of GDP in debt. It is highly unsustainable the way we are going as a country. And if we continue like this, I don't want to be a doomsday prophet, but disaster will happen at some point. We should do everything possible not to get there. As I wrap my blunt thoughts for you today, I would like to re-echo the words of James Madison, who says, "Knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and the people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives." Let us thirst, Ghana, for knowledge and its application, which is wisdom, and hold our leaders to account even as we do better ourselves for our motherland. Let's not do NPP, NDC, Party A, Party B. In the end, if the country broke, we'll all be inside. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I say all these because I am extremely passionate about Amma Ghana and what her future, intricately tied to ours, holds. These are my blunt thoughts for you, served raw, hot, unedited, and undiluted. And as always, God richly bless our motherland and make her great and strong.